China's economy is facing a new threat. In most countries, governments complain when prices are too high. But in China, the government's angry that prices are too low.
Wait. How is this a bad thing?
This has come about due to a phenomenon called involution.
Can we get some of this threatening involution in Europe, please?
Companies are cutting prices to gain market share.
Prices are too low. Customers can spend without financial stress. The horror.
That's forcing everyone else to do the same. As a result, profits have plummeted.
Oh no! Prices are falling? Won't anyone think of the poor stockholders?
This fight for survival has gone beyond normal market competition. That's because many of the firms have been nurtured by China's local government.
Sounds to me like China knows what free market and competition actually looks like, where companies have to compete instead of monopolies.
Industries like solar panels and lithium batteries have become world leading, but this has resulted in an oversupply of these goods and not enough customers to meet the demand.
Give me those solar panels and electric cars. I will gladly buy them, but our government won't let us.
Discounts are so steep that you can buy this electric car, the BYD Seagull, for less than $8,000. That might sound like a great deal, but households should think twice before being too happy about cheap prices.
Oh no, things are cheap. Whatever will Chinese citizens do? How will they live without being completely fleeced by every bit of money they have like Western citizens?
As profits have come down, wage growth has stalled.
We'll happily take a wage stall for cheap goods.
China has been here before.
OMG, the propaganda. I've been hearing China's collapsing from about 10 years ago, and every year they surpass the US.
A decade ago, it also suffered another long spell of falling industrial prices.
Literally an example of capitalist media going, well, food prices get higher in the West. They are getting lower in China, but here's why that's still bad. Trust me, guys.
Back then, the government cut capacity in industries like steel and coal to limit production. But this time around, involution is more widespread. The companies involved are often privately owned, so the government has less control over them.
Sounds like a government problem and not a me problem. You'll never convince me that low prices are bad.
An alternative response to involution is just to flood foreign markets with goods, but trading partners are pushing back.
Somehow China's facing every week some economic threat, and somehow they are still getting more powerful.
China's leader, Xi Jinping, is wedded to his vision of China as a manufacturing powerhouse, even if customers are hard to find.
Time to go to China.
Manufacturing is a big part of China's economy, and he doesn't want it getting any smaller. If that's the case, Mr. Xi won't solve involution without a bit of introspection.
But he dramatically lifted millions of people out of poverty and brought modernization to the country's infrastructure. I'm sure he can solve this problem too. Think about the billionaires. The Economist.
If you have to use VPN in the country that you live in to access any social networks, you live in prison. Dear Chinese people who are attacking me in DMs and in the comments, you have to use VPN. I don't have to. I don't care if it's legal in your country. I don't care if you love using VPN. You have to use VPN to access TikTok. I don't. I don't have VPN installed on my phone, but you do. That argument is final to me. Your government is restricting the information that you can consume, and you have to find the ways to go around that. End of story.
So now Donald Trump is saying that any tourists entering the United States have to provide 5 years of their social media history, along with any phone numbers, addresses, or even email addresses they've used in the last 10 years, and possibly even provide the names, addresses, and phone numbers of their family members just to enter the country. Now, I can go to China, Russia, North Korea right now and not have to provide that. But the freest country in the world is saying that that's a requirement just to enter the country because they don't want people who don't like the president. He is that fragile. Now, I'm wondering, sitting up here in Canada, how many people still want to travel to the United States and why? What is it about the United States that is so alluring that you're willing to step into an authoritarian country who clearly doesn't want you there? Why would you do that? Tell me in the comments.
US is going to ask for people's social media history from past 5 years before they enter US. I think I will never be able to go to US now.
What do all US enemies of state have in common? They're authoritarian. Not letting US authorities infiltrate and control your country will become authoritarian. What does the EU and Gulf Arab vassal states of the US have in common? They are still authoritarian in their own ways, but have no authority before the US. China is successful today because it had to be authoritarian. How did they develop a vast sovereign tech industry with competitive apps that are the only ones challenging the US tech industry? Because they were authoritarian. They didn't let Western tech companies freely into their countries. They built their own alternatives. In the 60s, 70s, when the CIA was sending thousands of American missionaries to Latin America and Asia to co-opt Christian liberation theology that was spreading class consciousness, to push forward evangelism aligned with capitalism, what did authoritarian China do? They made sure all their churches are state approved so foreign missionaries couldn't just infiltrate their country and start manipulating their population. But my freedom to be brainwashed by Americans, you can keep that. I wish Brazil had the foresight to do what China did. Only 5% of the population used to be evangelical only a couple decades ago in Brazil. Now it's over 30% of Brazilian society. And this growing part of society blindly believes in Zionism, the rapture, and are deeply classist by indoctrination and keep falling for far-right American Christian nationalist agendas. Brazil is stuck in a cycle of deep, unending class war and sown two-party hatred. What happens to every single country that adopts Western-style democracy? They get infiltrated by puppets working to align markets to U.S. interests. Every single time, only the authoritarian ones are more protected from the world's most well-funded intelligence agency and propaganda campaigns that splits countries, divides citizens, and does unimaginable damage for decades to come. The West are agents of chaos and sowers of division, with the power to be said agents and fund and arm death squads in opposition as they please. But you expect countries not to be authoritarian in response while doing nothing to stop the emperor itself from intervening, the world's police from knocking on their door. Americans always have so much to say about authoritarianism. Another thing, not every society believes in the same freedom you do. De-radicalization for hateful ideologies like incels, neo-Nazism, and Zionism is cool, actually. Germany's post-World War II denazification re-education programs are an example of that. It's not normal to let this run wild and fester and destroy societies. I truly can't stand to hear another American use the word authoritarian anymore. Focus on your empire of pedophiles, please.
I noticed something.
Yo, look, it's the State Department doing propaganda against China again. And then another huge TikTok saying the same exact thing, word for word, basically. Except those two goofballs are leaving out important info. Their whole point is to say that China is doing its own imperialism in the Congo. But the full story is that they made a deal with the DRC. This study here goes into detail about the whole contract and the whole deal. If you go into it, it clearly states it's a resource for infrastructure deal, which means that China and the Congo came to a formal agreement. This wasn't forced onto the Congo. And the agreement was that China fronts the entire bill so the Congo can actually build infrastructure, build roads, build dams, build things like that. In exchange, China owns a large portion of the mining companies. If you know anything about actual imperialism, Western imperialism, then you'll know that there is no infrastructure deals. China is not being imperialist by actually promising infrastructure, the things that make societies and civilizations prosper. You'll see a ton of Western leftists call China imperialist because of their activities in Africa. But just like the Congo and many other African nations, there are mutual agreements for infrastructure and resources. Western imperialism explicitly makes sure that countries cannot develop infrastructure. Because if they start developing infrastructure, they no longer are reliant on Western powers. And they can start producing things and paying off debts, which the World Bank and the IMF actually rely on to control everything. China isn't in this for control. They do want resources, yes, but of course they do. They're trying to build a nation as well. And not only that, the Congolese government started inviting the Saudi Arabian government over and other Western-backed institutions and governments, which again, if you know anything about Western imperialism, if a government invited an adversary in, that would never fly. And the other thing, 2009, the IMF forced a renegotiation of that contract, making it worse for the Congo. So they were still in charge of the deal, and the West still screwed over the Congolese people. These propaganda pieces will try to play off your morals, but they're just wrong.
So when Somalia does this, they call it piracy. They're stealing an oil tanker. But see, when America does it, we're actually taking this oil from terrorists. So now it's our oil. We just blame terrorists. We can take whatever we want and it's not piracy.
Not just white people are colonizers. China invaded Vietnam in '79, Japan invaded China and Korea during World War II, and colonized Taiwan for many years. Oh, you're not gonna have a good day today. At the peak of their power, the Chinese Empire and the Japanese Empire stayed in Asia. Now let's examine the whites. Ladies, gentlemen, and that wonderful box in between, behold, the original plantation. Not only did the British went to Africa to colonize and spread diseases, they also went to Asia for some fucking spices they didn't use. We all know the British went to America to do some fucked up shit, but what is not commonly known is what happens after they lost America. Instead of reflecting on themselves and drinking their shitty tea, they went to colonize Australia. What happens there, you ask? More native genocide and more white-on-white crime. The ungodly child of the British, aka America, did the same goddamn thing its father did. Very few of us know the full extent of what they did to Native Americans, and even fewer can comprehend this reality. Oh, look at that, they colonized the Philippines, like father, like child. Oh, look at that, they bombed Vietnam because communism is bad. Oh, look at that, they bombed Laos and Cambodia as well because communism is bad. Oh, dear Lord and Piccolo, the French are next. Y'all are not ready. Not only did they colonize North America, Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, but at some point in time, they even tried to colonize their own people. Just because you've made a bunch of baguettes doesn't mean you can stick it anywhere, dickheads. Pulse. Did you guys notice that I haven't mentioned Spain, the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, Denmark, and much more? Well, for one, I'm going bar for bar. This idiot mentioned China, Korea, and Japan, so I'm mentioning... And for two, it's not enough time in the fucking day. By the way, if Asians are such great colonizers, why do white women benefit the most from DEI? If Asians are such great colonizers, why is the wealth gap between a white person and a black person 6-1 and not an Asian person? If Japan and China are such great colonizers, where are they right now? Ooh, only acknowledging changes when it's convenient for you, I see. It seems like, based on your logic, all crackers should go back to Europe.
The White House and the U.S. Department of War both posted on the Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. We will never forget, 84 years ago, our country was attacked. But who attacked you? Why don't you mention the country that attacked you? Why don't you mention the country that bombed Pearl Harbor? Oh, Maybe it's because the country that bombed Pearl Harbor is also the country that you're helping remilitarize now? Yeah, it was Japan. The Nazi Japan that invaded and massacred across Asia during World War II later bombed Pearl Harbor. Even though in revenge the US dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan to kill Japanese civilians, they gave impunity to actual Japanese war criminals. They even hired them to serve for the US Army, and then these war criminals became politicians and ruling elites in Japan.
It has come to my attention that many of you doesn't agree with the One China policy. But it's not my policy, it's your government's policy. I'm just more aligned with your government than you. This is the One China policy of your government. In the second Trump administration, a U.S. Department of State spokesperson stated from the podium on July 29, 2025, that the United States remain committed to our long-standing One China policy. I'm just more aligned with your government policy. And you have to ask yourself, why don't you align with your own government's policy? Say it. One China. Good question. Not just look alike, even talk alike. I'm from Fujian, so most of the time, 90% of the time, for people I met in the United States, other Chinese, no matter what they're from, Taiwan or Singapore or north of China, south of China, when they hear me talk, 90% of time they guess me as Taiwanese. Okay? But that's not, there's a good reason for that, because I'm from Fujian. I speak a dialect, Fujian dialect, which Taiwanese speak too. So Taiwanese speak Fujianese dialect. Most Taiwanese people are actually Fujianese. We just cross strait. It's another island. So maybe 80%, maybe 70%, okay, 70% Taiwanese people are Fujianese, okay? So of course we're the same. We speak the same dialect. And some people call that Taiwan dialect. It's Mingnanhua. It's Fujian dialect. So we're the same people. And if you met anybody from Taiwan, guess their last name. First, guess Chen, C-H-E-N, Chen. Second, guess Lin, L-I-N, Lin. 50% of chance you're right.
I want to talk about the fire in Hong Kong. You all probably have seen the deadly fire rip through 7 high-rise apartment complex buildings in Hong Kong. Many media reported it. The fire broke out on November the 26th. I didn't make a video back then because it was a heartbreaking tragedy. The authorities are investigating what caused the fire, who is responsible, so I don't want to talk about a tragedy without confirmed information because it won't help solve the problem. Yet, I see some Western media have started to use this disaster to further push their anti-China propaganda. So I want to tell you the side that many major Western media are not reporting, how people are pulling together to overcome this tragedy. This is how Hong Kong citizens are donating supplies and distributing supplies to those in need. Neighboring cities have been providing everything they could too. This is people in Shenzhen donating supplies and transporting them to Hong Kong. The Shenzhen Fire Department also dispatched their fire trucks to help put out the fire. Organizations and enterprises from many places donated millions of Hong Kong dollars, such as the EV company BYD, Xpeng, the jewelry company Chow Tai Fook, the restaurant chain Mixue and Haiti. Organizations from the Chinese mainland and Macau also donated lots of money, such as China Red Cross, Guangdong Red Cross, and Tencent Charity Fund. And several organizations from Hong Kong also donated a tremendous amount of money immediately, including the Hong Kong Jockey Club, Li Kai-shing Foundation, Fo Ying Tong Foundation, Li Shaoqi Foundation. When faced with such an unexpected disaster, people across China are pulling together to overcome this difficult time. I'm sending my deepest condolences to the families of victims, and I hope Hong Kong will recover from this as soon as possible.